Hi, my name is Jeff Leese. I'm from Newburgh, New York. Architect, and I'm a broker with John J. Leese Real Estate. And I wanted to share two things with the legislators. Number one, I first saw the building in '72 when I was 14 years old, and I was very much inspired by the building when I first saw it. I eventually became an architect. I thought it was an astounding building, and I still think it's a great building. I think it's been abused over the years and maligned. I recently, 2 weeks ago, went out to Yale to see the renovated Arts and Architecture building, which was built only a few years from this building, and they did a great job. Charlie Gwathmey was his last job, and it was really an act of love, and the people that are using the building absolutely love it. I think the building can be renovated into a beautiful thing that it once was. My other point is, as a real estate broker, I have been selling in the county for the past 4 years, and it's been a very mean time. And I think that to embark on such a project right now, when my customers have been struggling to sell their real estate, I think is just wrong-headed. I think it's out of step with what's happening in the county right now. It's just been very tough out there. My children, I have 3 children, they go to the Newburgh School District. They constantly come back with little packages that say reuse, recycle, and renovate. And I think that applies to this project as well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Next up is Dr. Bill Richards.
I'll get it out here. I'm Bill Richards. I'm the president of SUNY Orange, and I actually don't have a comment about this project, but I would like to read very briefly into the record a thought that I had about the construction of the Newburgh campus, and now we've started major construction project at the Middletown campus. SUNY Orange is my 4th presidency. The Newburgh campus is the 13th major capital project that I've been involved in, and I can tell you that it is the first at Newburgh that came in on time, actually ahead of time, and significantly under budget, the first of 13. So far at Middletown, we're closing in on the end of construction of our new lab school. There we are about 30 days ahead of schedule, and I think we're a little bit under budget there too. I expect the same thing is going to happen with a very large and magnificent Center for Science and Engineering at the Middletown campus. And I think I know why this remarkable record is. The attention to detail at the county executive's office, at Commissioner Lee's office, and all the folks in DPW, and the folks that they work with are the best that I've ever seen, the best that I've ever had the pleasure to work with. And I think that's why these projects come in under budget, and I know others in the county have as well. Under budget and on time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Can you also state for the record that our wives did not communicate with each other last night about what we should wear tonight? Next up is Ramona Harrigan.
Good evening. My name is Ramona Harrigan, and I am from Goshen, New York. I also live in the county. I love Orange County. I love Goshen, and I'm here in support of renovating the county building. Mr. Rudolph is an American architect. He was a Harvard graduate from the School of Design. He was Dean of Yale School of Architecture. He was a Navy veteran. He was a world-class architect. He's had buildings throughout the United States and Asia, some of which include the Yale Art and Architecture building that was mentioned here earlier, the Government Center in Boston, the First Church in Boston, the main campus at the University, Mass, Dartmouth, Arts Center in Wesley College, Arts Center in Colgate University, Beekman Place Townhouse in Manhattan, various buildings in Sarasota, Florida, Hong Kong, Jakarta, Indonesia, and the Orange County Government Center right here in Goshen, New York. Mr. Rudolph devoted his life's work, his entire archive, to the Library of Congress, which helped establish the Center for Architecture, Design, Engineering, and the Library of Congress. And he donated all his intellectual property rights to the American people. This was a gift to the residents of Orange County. Our former legislators voted for this design and this project to come forward. Personally, I love the building. I think it's beautiful. I know there's been a lot of controversy since it was first designed and put in place. What I want to say is that, do we really want a cookie-cutter Victorian federal design for our village, our town, our county, our state? When you travel, one of the things I love about Europe, that they blend the modern with the old, with the historic. You know, it's about creativity. It's about expanding our minds, expressing ourselves, and appreciating, you know, what each generation has to offer. One of the points that I wanted to make is that the county building needs to be maintained. Part of the problem is if you don't maintain something, you're going to have difficulty. The county building sits in an area that has a high water table. If you look around there, a lot of water drains into that area. Whenever it rains, you can see puddles across there. I would hope that perhaps there could be some type of joint venture between the county and the village of Goshen to put drains in and to fix the infrastructure. I don't know how many of you are aware that the village of Goshen, the water, sewage, drainage in the town, that Riverkeeper, I believe, has been suing them because effluent is flowing into the Hudson. And it would be nice to, you know, try to fix the problem. Putting another building there isn't going to change that. You're still going to have a high water table, drainage problem. You're still going to have mold if you don't take care of things on an annual basis. It's just like having a home. If you don't maintain it, you're going to have problems. Also, one thing I want to leave with you is the thought of, you know, when the Eiffel Tower went up, a lot of people complained about that and didn't like it, and it's one of the icons today that people go to visit. Same, I want to mention Vincent van Gogh. During his lifetime, he thought he was a failure, and today he's very revered. You know, if his paintings were destroyed, what a loss that would be for society. I also just became aware that there's a movement that they're concerned that the 50s to 70s architecture is disappearing. And my understanding is that the Getty Foundation in Los Angeles has just put out an initiative about conserving modern architecture. My hope would be that people would work together to try to find grants, funding, you know, work with the state, county, you know, federal. Save this building, fix it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for coming. Mr. President, want to come back up?
Now, if you folks think you're tired of hearing me, I apologize. That's how much time I sit in my office, so I was wondering if I still live there. Hello, again. Okay, let's go back to where we started. One question. We have 5...
Back to where we left off, not where we started.
Okay, well, I feel like I'm starting. Let me tell you, I'm looking forward to the next iteration. Anyway, you have 5 buildings that are being renovated. In them, you reassessed all 5 of them and took down the cost by, and on average, 60%. And what I'm wondering is, once you're done with this 40% renovation, if you don't mind me calling it that, what will be the useful life of these 5 buildings?
You know, you can't necessarily, answer that question because, buildings, as we all know, the life depends upon, maintenance and staying on top of them. So certainly programmatically and with the current needs that we've identified, we are putting money into those buildings on specific areas to maintain them for an additional period of time. But
You don't have an objective.
the original objective was 20 years.
I understand.
The original objectives that we looked at was 20 years. So with compromises being made, is that some of those buildings will get some 20-year renovation, some of those buildings will not.
Well, only one of them, it looks like, will get a 20-year renovation, and that's the 1841 courthouse. Combine the money you're spending with the money that's already been approved in the capital plan, it gives enough to cover the amount that you talked about. But the other ones are like 40% or even lower than 40%.
Yeah, compared to what the 20-year master plan was, in some cases it's substantially less.
So would I say 8 years then? If it's 40% of the money, you're going to give me 8 more years out of it?
It's before you have to spend more money. I mean, whatever, it'll vary for every one of those buildings before you've got to spend more money on it.
Okay, and one of the concerns that I had is, you did this for all these buildings, but you didn't do that for the government center. Why?
We didn't do what?
You didn't adjust the renovation plan so that the price dropped 2/3. Why? You mean, are you suggesting by that?
We've given a number for the renovation of the government center
Yes.
in a master plan study. So
And you gave a renovation number for these 5 buildings, and it was in the master study.
You're missing something, okay, all right? There was another number for a lesser renovation, and that was in the tropical storm study. It was a $40 million renovation.
But that wasn't complete.
It did not include, additional space. It did not include the programs. So, there is another number out there if that's what you're fishing for.
yeah, and we weren't asked on the county executive's latest proposal. We were not asked to give a reduced, less scope renovation.
But you were for the other buildings.
We were for the other buildings.
Oh. Was that an omission? Was that intentional?
Well, I have a difference of opinion with them as well.
Okay.
Want to hear my take on
No,
it?
I'll finish mine, then you can...
Well, no, I'm
Go.
asking. Want to hear my
Thank
take on it?
Yours will come out at joint committee meetings.
Okay. The other thing is, you took all the ADA compliance money out that I could see. I'm sorry, but every line item for ADA was removed. And all the plumbing, which included putting in the fixtures necessary for ADA, were reduced significantly. So, I mean...
And all the other buildings were not...
5 buildings.
All the other buildings were not completely out of compliance. There's some were, but some were not completely out of compliance.
There is not one...
They may have needed updating.
Not one of these buildings were ADA compliant in the restrooms. I went through the book. I went through it one by one. I got the detail, and I was hoping to avoid doing that, but okay. That's a fact. I can show you after the meeting, because I don't want to drag these poor people through this. The HVA systems and the plumbing systems are all identified as being exceeding useful life. I think there was one building where it wasn't. And how could you... I mean, first of all, without ADA, you can't get 8 years out of it, because we're required now to be ADA compliant. There is good news, about $600,000 in the capital plan still available that hasn't been spent, but it's been approved for ADA compliance. So maybe that's going to be applied, but obviously it should be. But it's been there since 2002, so it doesn't seem to be a big hurry to get ADA compliant. Windows exceeding useful life. Consistently, most of the buildings have been identified as exceeding useful life. And I guess my concern is when I look at the amount you're planning to spend, there's no way you're going to replace them. So you're going to end up doing what one of my friends said, is caulking the windows and painting them and hoping they survive for another 8 years or whatever. Okay. Then the parking solution. In your original proposal, we had 1,900 employees coming. We had, was it 1,900 employees? No, 1,900 parking spots, excuse me, sorry, 1,900 parking spots. The 1,900 parking spots was 65% greater than the total population. And that was because of the activities of government going on. Now, this new proposal has 100%. You have 100% more parking spots than you need for the total employees that are going to be there. And I guess my question is why did it grow that much? Why did you go to 1,200 for 600 people versus the other number that you had?
I think that has to deal with the scope of it. When you're looking at a project that includes the 333,000 square foot renovated building plus 130 give or take for the existing courts, right? And you're looking at that scope of it, you look at the 85th percentile when you're looking at the people coming from the county or outside the county to come and use the facilities. Right, and that's why, that number, when you have a bigger number, you're using that percentile, right? When you're looking at a smaller number, and this is all projections from the Institute for Transportation Engineers, when you're looking at it for smaller, you still have the major activities coming into that building that require, larger service. The social services were a large number. The motor vehicle, the clerk, the courts, that type of thing has a larger percentage and a larger volume of people coming in than some of the lesser ones.
But I don't think social services is going in there.
They're not. I was using that as an example. Those are the heavier numbers. So
we're building more than 600. We have 600 employees. We're building more than 600.
Yeah,
you're building
1,200.
1,200 spaces.
Yeah, so it doesn't go percentage to percentage. Because what you're looking at, and when you look at the Institute for Transportation Engineers, you're looking at the number of employees or the square footage based upon 10 or 100 other examples that they've used before, and that's where you come up with that analysis.
And again, I go back to that study where it said that should not be used for establishing
which is fraudulent, because that is what every single transportation engineer in the United States of America uses.
But you can't give it to me because that's what it says on their website. Because
in the internet, you can find something that says anything.
Well, this is on their website.
I'm telling you that every transportation engineer in the United States uses those documents to develop parking, to develop trip generation. It's the standard.
Okay, and on that site it also says that any traffic study should include a certification, a testing to the person who does that study, and I didn't find any of those in your studies.
Say that again?
There was no certification of a transportation engineer having done this study.
This is a study of this facility to present, to the legislature. Okay. There wasn't a specific traffic study done to develop it. What we did is we took existing information, we extrapolated that data, all right? Based on that, there's a number of professional engineers that can certify what was done and how it was done. In fact, the premier traffic engineer for the area, whose office, by the way, is on the corner of Scotchtown and 207, was a consultant with us on this project, and he's developed that. His firm is, well-known in the area, WSP Sells, Bernie Callis, which I think everybody here recognizes as a premier traffic engineer.
Okay. Now, I calculated what the square footage cost of the 2000 courthouse would be today. And doing the calculation, it came out to about $235 was what it cost to build, what the first bid on the courthouse was when it was built.
Courthouse addition, is that what you're talking about?
The 2000 courthouse. The 2000 courthouse that depended to...
Addition, okay.
Yes. And that particular building, it calculated out to $235 a square foot at the time. It excludes the $7 million in overruns because of legal problems and et cetera. However, if I grew that at 3%, which I think is conservative for inflation rate, it comes out to $335 a square foot today. And $335 a square foot compared to the $429 per square foot that currently exists, that's about a $96 premium per square foot. And I'm wondering...
Is that an all-in number? Is that just a construction number or an all-in number?
It's an all-in number.
All-in number.
That's usually what they bond. Okay. And so it just seems that the price of $75 million is a little high based on that analysis.
I think a new courthouse would probably be much higher than $335 per square foot all in, if you will.
Well, the inflation rate was wrong. You're suggesting.
Just from the courthouses we have done around New York State, I would think that for a new courthouse of that magnitude, it would be well above $400 a square foot all in.
Well, I left a copy here of my document. I would like to take a minute and make a statement, if I may.
I would keep going with your questions.
The questions I've asked, I've already gotten answered at a gross level rather than going through each one of the departments.
Okay.
Where it talks about the individuals.
So you're wrapping up now with a statement?
Yes.
Okay.
There's one more question I did have, by the way. In one of the buildings, let's find out which one it was. In the 1841 courtroom building, you stated the alarm system it was end of useful life, needed to be repaired.
Fire alarm?
Yeah. Now the problem I had with that is that the capital plan in 2005 had $75,000 in it to fix the alarm in that. They spent the money in 2007 and 8, and it disappeared in 2009, so I'm assuming it was fully expended at the time. So I don't understand why the alarm is at end of useful life. It was just replaced in 2008.
We went in there and analyzed what was there.
Maybe that's something for the legislature to look at. I'm just going to wrap up now because I just have a statement. Okay? First, I want to thank Legislator Benton for moving to a more open forum format for this particular agenda. Much better than it was in the past. However, I saw last night that the citizens of this county want to be more involved. And according to the Orange County Charter, you, the county legislators, have the power to do that. The County Charter, Chapter 2, gives the county legislature the power to employ professional and technical assistants and appoint citizens committees to conduct studies and investigate issues that are before the county. Your current approach of holding forums is seen by many as a charade, by the public, seen by the public as a charade, but with no meaningful purpose but to check off public input done. The Orange County Charter, as it should, gives the county executive no role in this responsibility. As for the Government Center, I found the LaBella documentation very informative, and I hope that the legislators will take a more active role in pushing the county leadership to renovate and repair our building inventory instead of demolishing and building new. I recommend that the legislature use the LaBella documents to develop a facilities maintenance plan that will inventory our county infrastructure, catalog building components according to the end of useful life, and over that time bring all of our buildings up to the specifications for our employees and our taxpayers. As the county executive has said on numerous occasions, the county legislature is responsible for the county's building inventory. The LaBella study has shown that our aging building inventory is at or beyond end of useful life and is in dire need of repair. This raises questions about the legislature's performance against their responsibility. I am again recommending that the legislature use citizen committees to involve the public in the decision-making process. I'm requesting that the legislature form citizens committees for Valley View, Orange County Government Center, and the County Charter Revision Committee with a focus on checks and balances. Based on what I have witnessed in the past year, I feel that without this action, the next election will be very different from past elections in this county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Is that your quote? Is that your... Thank you.
That's yours too, I think.
Okay, Mr. Barry?
That's for
You
you.
want to finish up? And again, remember, questions, we're not going to end on a disruptive note.
Mr. Benton? That's for you.
Oh, thank you. Actually, it's for the clerk.
Okay.
I'm pleased that you referred to the fireproofing of the steel because you had the opportunity to say that NASCO wasn't in the building. But isn't it a fact that no independent expert of any kind has been allowed in the building, except for you? And your company is getting paid, and your company might get first refusal on a bid to do the project.
We don't know who was allowed in and out of the building.
Well, I can tell you, no one.
I don't know
Mr.
that.
Perry, that's not a question about the new county executive's proposal.
I would think it is. I don't know how many people in the audience might think it is, but I think several of them might. Well, there hasn't been anyone in and out of the building to look at it or to decide what should or should not be in the budget. However, I don't think that Mr. Fusco bringing up the $67 million renovation is really appropriate. Shouldn't we be discussing, so that we're talking about the same thing, the $35 million NASCO estimate and the $40 million that you estimated for the repair or renovation of the building? Those would be two items, two numbers, that in between there would be almost everything covered. Whether it's the $35 million or the $40 million, almost everything would be covered. On some of them, they would be, some of the things we were left off on the $35 million budget would be included in the $40 million budget. And some of the things that were left off there would be included in the $35 million.
And that's where the reconciliation would take place to reconcile those differences.
So, but we are talking that if we're talking about, we are saying that if we're talking about the same thing, the range for renovation is between the $35 and the $40 million, and pretty much. I want to speak to the consultant from LaBella.
You used my name, and it's not correct to use the $67 million. That is the number that is in our report for the renovation. Now, you can back out the 22,000 square feet of additional space if you wish.
For what number?
Yeah, the 40.8, he was quoting the 40.8.
I understand. But what you can do is you can back that number off. That's why we say we meet with your consultant and we discuss that with them. Now, there's one thing that you're missing, and that is that they don't have the scope of the programmatic requirements. You know, the 155,000 square feet renovation isn't sufficient for the programmatic needs of the county, what they asked for. So 155,000 square foot renovation would not do what the county needs. So any consultant that's looking at estimating this number needs to know and to see those programmatic needs.
Mr. Fusco, are you a certified architect?
I am a certified professional engineer.
Thank you. My question was to the architect. Now, earlier I heard that there's 107,000 square feet of usable space in the new building. Yet you're comparing the new proposal. Well, you know what? If I went into Home Depot and took a bunch of screws and put equal size containers on there, threw the screws up in the air, all different sizes, and they fill up those containers. This is what we have going on here. We have a shell game. So, on the one hand, we just mentioned 150-some-odd thousand square feet that were needed because that's what was asked for. On the other hand, you're delivering 107,000 square foot usable space in the new building. So I don't see where we're comparing equal things at all. Let me ask you a question. Isn't it true that all the benefits of a new building, including ADA compliance, LEED compliance, fully reprogrammed design, state-of-the-art windows and roof, and heating and cooling system can be had in a renovated building?
In the government center.
In a renovated building.
Yeah,
and then we'll bring it back to the government center.
It'll be very difficult, but the numbers that we put on there, the 67,000 square foot, $67 million number was a number to renovate it to current compliance. That's correct.
And wasn't the $40 million that also?
What's that?
Wasn't the $40 million that also? I think you just admitted that it was.
Yeah, the storm mitigation report would not have addressed handicap. The storm mitigation that wasn't the purpose of the storm mitigation report.
But the NASCO report does include ADA compliance, LEED compliance, and a full reprogramming of the building.
Because it seemed like he did not put very many dollars in there, and I get the feeling that NASCO, not having been in the building, is not familiar with the multi-level design that is in there.
I think he had an interview with Harvey Berg, and I think Harvey Berg went out of his way to explain what was needed, didn't give him an upper limit, didn't say make this as cheap as possible. He let NASCO go as far as they wanted to go, and they came up with a $35 million figure. You know what? If I were going to trust a figure, I would trust the NASCO figure, because basically you're talking about numbers that apply. That's a question. Aren't you talking about numbers that apply to the very most basic pre-design concept of a project? I mean, you keep telling us that there are no concrete figures here because we don't have a design, we don't have a bid, we don't have an architect.
This is a study, and I'm assuming the NASCO is also a study level.
But isn't the NASCO study based on an existing building with an existing structure that can be saved and completely renovated?
Don't answer that, because we're stopping any discussion of NASCO. If Mr. Berg was here, he was going to be moved to the front of the class to be asking all these questions first.
The NASCO report's right here.
I have a copy of it. I was given on Monday. But we're not going to be discussing anything more with the NASCO report. Do you have any questions for the consultants regarding the county executive proposal?
You know what?
Or do I ask you to sit down?
You know what? I don't have any more questions for them, because obviously you guys have fixed the meeting.
No, I have not.
Yeah, you have.
We were very patient with you, Mr. Ferry.
Oh, patient?
You were disruptive last night, and you're not going to be any more disruptive tonight.
Mr. Diana said that...
We have a gentleman who has come in since Mr. Ferry got up. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said gentleman. Lou Cornish? Okay. I identified a gentleman earlier incorrectly when I know I do have an Uncle Francis that was my grandfather's brother. So.
Okay. I'm not a public speaker, and I'm not a politician, but I'm a person that's lived in Orange County now. 65. And I saw this building. I never liked it from the start, and I don't like it now. It may, in fact, be a historical spot. I don't think that that's an area that should be addressed too strongly with regard to what would be efficient for the county. So, it's my understanding with a lot of historic buildings that they're made into just that. There's tours that are given through historic buildings. They're maintained by different organizations. People make contributions to these buildings, but they're not utilized for business. And the county is business. It's money. It should be run in a building that's as efficient as it can possibly be under today's standards. Now, I made a few notes. I haven't followed all of these proceedings. I can't make a speech like some of these gentlemen do, and I think that the people that are trying to keep this building up, keep it in place, keep it operating, fix it, really have their own strong convictions about this. I don't have the same feelings about it. I was in business for many years in this town. I ran a small trucking company. I had the decision oftentimes to go out and buy new trucks or fix old trucks. Invariably, when I fixed old trucks, they broke again. They broke a lot. They were not worth fixing. I could own a new truck for no more than fixing the old ones. There was a period where I bought an old house in Middletown. It had to be brought into compliance. I could have knocked it down, and I could have put up a newer one for 40% more. But I elected to fix the old one. And when I got all done, what did I have? I had an old building that still had a bad foundation, rotten wooden beams, and floors that weren't level. I had another building that had leaks in the roof. It was a flat roof. I had people come in, they gave me different estimates. Finally, I chose the person that I thought would be the best one to fix the roof. Got all done. I was so happy. It leaked. I called the man, he was very reputable. He came back and he fixed it again. You know what? You know what it is. It leaked again. It continued to leak. And after the warranty period was up, I had to start paying to have this roof continually repaired. To our legislatures, to our legislators, I respectfully ask, what's the holdup? How long is this going to be permitted to be debated and gone back and forth with? I believe that these gentlemen up on the dais probably have done a pretty good job. When I came to the last meeting, there were 4 people up there, I believe. I was impressed with all of their answers. They seemed to know exactly what they've done and all the answers to the questions that were put forth to them. Maybe it is time to put this to a county vote. We have a very large number of people on this side of the room who'd like to maintain the building. We seem to have a group on this side that, for the most part, would like to put up a new building. I think, like all people, we reach a point where maybe our useful time has worn out. So the younger people come along and they take over, and in many cases they do a much better job. We get to the point where we're tired. I looked into cost to repay a bond, or the loan would be to float a bond and repay the loan. Spoke to a couple of people, and I'm not really 100% certain that my numbers are right. I'd like to preface this with that. But based on a $75 million loan, which is, I think, what we're talking about with the downsizing of this project, and working on the premise that there's 115,000 households that pay taxes in this county, the debt service on a $75 million loan over a 30-year period at about 4 or 4.5% would be $4.3 million a year. If you take 115,000 households times $38, I believe the number will be $4.3 million a year. I don't remember hearing that in our discussions. There's one last thing that I'd like to bring up, and that's the mold issue with regard to repairing the existing building. If the building is not going to be completely gutted, and even if it is completely gutted, I believe that there's still going to remain some mold. Some cause for employees in that building to think that there's still mold in there. So let me go out on a limb with a prediction. I guess my time is getting close here, so, okay. This is it. If there's some mold left in this building, and even if there's no mold left in this building, it's my opinion that those people who work in that existing building that's been repaired, every single one, or 75% of those people that come down with a respiratory illness will sue this county. There's no question about it. And there are those attorneys out there, many of them, who would just love to take those cases. So, should that happen, now we're going to be faced with not only how long will the repair of this building last, but how long are we really going to be paying lawyers' fees for all of these lawsuits that are coming up from people who in fact have developed a respiratory problem, whether in fact it had to do with the building or not. My thoughts. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for coming. Part of an answer to one of your questions is the approval process here. Just a reminder for everyone, on April 23rd and 25th, a Monday and a Wednesday, from 3:30 to 6 o'clock, we are scheduled to have our joint Physical Services and Ways and Means Committee meetings here, where I'm expecting a consensus to be developed to pass on to the floor for May 3rd. So, seeing no other hands of people who want to speak, motion...
I have a hand here.
Yeah, you've had it up twice. Motion to adjourn. Katie, second. Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
To me, the legislature violated its rules. I asked questions and you didn't want to take them. It seems that this process is cooked, just like the long-range predictions on amortization.
Maybe if you learn not to be so disruptive.
I asked questions and I wasn't fucking disruptive.
It's my constitutional right. Okay, I'm telling you, you can't do it. Okay? All right? That's a little something to think about.
Like I haven't heard state troopers, sheriffs, and these elected officials use that language in government buildings?
They would be, and listen, if I heard him say, I've been to every one of these meetings, and if I heard him say that, I would absolutely.
Well, all right, let me ask you a question. Was I disruptive? Did I not stick to specific questions about the issue?
I can't, that's not for us to debate.
Did I or did I not? I did, and I wasn't disorderly.
Okay. The disorderly was saying the F word.
You know what? My free speech, and if the county wants to press it, I'm sure we should be in federal court tomorrow.
Okay, take care.
I know what's going on here.
It's very even.
Hey, how are you? Doing? Excuse me. Yeah. Do you know what time this started tonight? It started just after 6 o'clock, like 6:05, something like that. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Good night.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, for that.